Take a break from your busy schedule and join Harold Sala for Guidelines for Living.
Cartoonist Bob Thaves pictured a couple sitting in front of their television set, cans of beer in their hand, junk food at their elbows, and the caption read, "There is no problem with your set. The rubbish you see on the screen is real. Please adjust your standards downward." I couldn't help thinking of that as I pondered the fate of a well-known pastor who resigned his church, a stalwart landmark in the community for more than 100 years. He was a graduate of a good seminary, and he was a good preacher. This middle-aged man nonetheless left his church in shame and sadness, his morality in question, his family devastated. Do we expect too much of people? Should we do what the cartoon suggests, adjust our standards downward? Is the answer to lower our expectations? Or is something drastically wrong with how we're living today? Something which short-circuits us from rising above the downward pull of our old nature and environment? Men and women have always struggled with their old natures and their inadequacies, but it's obvious today that something very radical is wrong with life and society. The failures of leaders, both Christians and non-Christians, are readily obvious and apparent. Is it the whole of society? Has marriage suffered a complete identity crisis, and the family unit that we knew in grandfather's day has been turned on its head? A generation or so ago, before we had copy machines and computers, let alone wireless printing from cell phones, if you wanted a second or third copy of a document which you were typing on an old typewriter, you inserted a piece of carbon paper between the first and successive sheets of paper. Naturally, the further the copy was from page 1, the original, the fainter was the impression. I've wondered if this is part of our problem today. The closer you are to a fire, the warmer you are. From a distance you may see the glow of the blaze, but you are much too far away for it to warm your cold hands. So is it with our faith. Mark, the writer of the second gospel, tells us that when Jesus called his disciples, he appointed 12, designating them apostles, that they might be with him and that he might send them out to preach and to have authority to drive out demons. Having first been in the presence of Jesus Christ, their lives had been touched by the divine. They were different, not outwardly, but inwardly. Theirs was a first-generation vivid experience. The world took notice of these people, and what they saw often convicted them. Those who had been with Jesus were able to love people who were not very lovely. They were deeply committed to the fact that the forgiveness of God results in a changed life. The real change was not cosmetic or outward. It was the inward change of the heart that resulted in a different lifestyle. This is why Paul was so dogmatic in what he said and wrote to the Corinthians, whose culture very much resembled ours today. Therefore, wrote Paul, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has gone, the new has come. Obviously, the farther a carbon copy is from the original, the less the reproduction resembles the real thing. So is it with our lives. The real solution is not to lower our standards, but in having that first-generation experience that results in spiritual regeneration. Finding God's grace and help is the solution to our needy lives.
You've just heard Dr. Harold Sala with Guidelines for Living. If you'd like to listen to the program again, download a copy, subscribe to our devotional, or view other resources, visit guidelines.org. We would like to hear from you too. You can email us at info@guidelines.org. Thanks for listening, and we invite you to join us again for the next edition of Guidelines.